Eric Gill, Pastor Eric Gill.
We're back.
We're back. You're back.
I'm back.
You're back. I mean, I've been here. I haven't gone anywhere.
But, you haven't gone anywhere.
Nope. I've been here.
In the last month, you have not gone anywhere.
I've been here. I've been here.
What about in the
doing
last
Beyond
2 months?
the Pew podcast? I haven't missed one Beyond the Pew podcast.
You haven't missed any.
No. Have I missed any?
You're right. You
I
haven't.
have not. Thank you. You have.
I missed one.
Yep. You have. Yeah. And you've been away for a little bit, so now you're back from sabbatical. You've been gone for, I think it's like 12 weeks.
Spell sabbatical.
You've been gone for like 12 weeks.
Can
resting.
you spell sabbatical?
I can.
Go ahead.
Sabbaatical.
Nice.
Look it up. Sabbatical. Yeah. That's what it is. Sabbatical. But
I like it.
Anyhow, you've been gone for like 12 weeks, and you're back. And it hasn't been 12. It's been a couple. But you've been busy about the work of the Lord because you have been on missions trips overseas. Missions.
To the homeland.
And then you went to camp with students. Seeing them. And you're kind of like a renowned, almost worldwide speaker now.
Nope.
Because you were speaking at Word of Life. You know, and
not to
you come back. You come back to Akron, Ohio area, and you're helping and leading up front with programming for Maranatha Kids Summer Edition and doing all that, which you were spectacular at. And then you're even preaching this Sunday in church. You're expounding the Word, and we're looking forward to that because it's always great. And you've just been a busy guy about the work of the Lord. And so we're glad in your schedule you have made time for Beyond the Pew podcast.
If you're watching Beyond the Pew right now or you're listening to us right now.
Beyond the what?
Beyond the Pew.
Okay.
Yeah, that's what I said. If you're watching or listening.
I thought you said Beyond the Putt.
No, I thought you were going to be all encouraging today.
I am encouraging. I'm saying you're here, and I'm thrilled.
So Bruce is coming in today with his persona that he's going to be extremely encouraging. So
I am encouraging.
Do not let him don't let this dismiss you from what's going on here. This is not really Bruce.
Okay, first of all, I feel like I was just recounting the things that you've been doing lately, and I want people to know you have been busy about working for the Lord, camp, missions trip, Maranatha Kids Summer Edition, preaching, expounding. And so we're privileged that you're back with us to Beyond the Pew. So thank you for being here. Thank you for tuning in today, by the way. Everybody listening.
Thank you so
all
much.
around the world.
We're excited to be back.
All around the world. Listening from all around the world to Beyond the Pew. So, Eric, let's get in.
Let's get into
some questions,
right,
man.
so I feel like last week, you were asking a lot of questions, so I think it's time for you to answer some.
Okay, that's right. We had Pastor Steve here last week.
Which he did fantastic.
Filling in. He did a good job.
Thank you, Pastor Steve.
He did a good job, Pastor Steve.
So, I'm going to start with this. Can church be too big or too small?
Ooh, can church be too big
or too small?
And
how do you define that? At what point does it become too big?
Yeah, that's a good question. I guess that's an individual kind of question response for folks, right? Biblically speaking, you have a church. The ecclesia, right, is the called out assembly or group that's gathering, Greek. that's coming to worship the Lord, and there are certain elements that would be present in a church service with the public reading of Scripture and the public proclamation and teaching of the Word and fellowship and worship. You'd have identified leaders, elders that would be in positions of leadership over individuals. But when it comes to actually how big or how small should church be, there really is not a biblical prescription for that, right? The Bible doesn't say you must have 20 or you must have 120. A lot of people quote the verse out of context, where 2 or 3 are gathered in my name, there I am in the midst of them. That passage is specifically in the context of church discipline, which is interesting because most people talk about that. Well, if 2 or 3 are gathered, the Spirit of God's with us. Well, the Spirit of God's with you even if it's just you because He's inside of you. But that context is in church discipline. So there's really not anything that I would see biblically that describes how big or how small a church should be. And, around the world today, we have all different size churches. Yeah. But again, I feel like what would be necessary for a called out assembly of people to be identified as a church or a local church would be the establishment of godly leadership, elders, pastors that would be in spiritual oversight, where the elements that are described in Scripture of baptism, the Lord's table, preaching, reading of Scripture, prayer, worship, all that would be present. And that might be 20 people, that might be 20,000 people. Yeah. But you really don't see anything prescriptive scripturally about a number.
And I think, too, like, as you're looking into this question, like, can church be too big or too small? Like, I think that also with that, it goes to the aspect of fellowship. I think that is a crucial aspect of it. Like, it don't matter if you are Like I'm thinking like if I come to church to Maranatha and I'm like I walk through those, I'm like, man, this church is too big for me. Or if I walk to another church where there's 100 people, man, this church is too small for me. I think that really what should define that is your level of fellowship. You know, if you're not connecting with people, it doesn't matter if you're a 50 people church or if you're a 1,000 people church. If you're not connected, if you're not having that fellowship with one another, you're not gonna. It's gonna feel either too small or too big for you. You know.
Yeah.
And I think that's why it is important to recognize that as you are gathering with a believer under that structure of church that you just described, there is a role of each believer to look for that fellowship. You know, here at Maranatha, we say connect, grow, and serve.
Sure.
And it's intentional that the first step is connect. You have to connect with one another. Because if you're not connected, whether you're a church like Maranatha, you will feel lost here if you're not connected.
Yeah.
Which is why it's important to be connected.
Yeah, those are excellent points.
Yeah.
I think those are fantastic points to bring out. I would say the other thing that we would want to tell people when they're attending church is that a lot of times church feels too big because there's not been an effort on their part to connect, as you were talking about. So take our church, for example, and we're not the only church that preaches the gospel. We're not a perfect church.
Yeah.
We're a healthy church. But for folks that are coming to Maranatha Bible Church, they attend a couple Sundays, they leave, and the answer for their leaving is it's just too big.
Too big,
right?
yeah.
Well, we've purposely put into place different avenues for people to be able to connect with others through our adult Bible fellowships that meet on Sunday mornings, our ABFs. That takes a large group setting like a Sunday morning service where we have hundreds and hundreds of people, and it breaks it down into 20 to 40 or 50 people.
Yeah.
We have our connect groups that meet during the fall and winter months, where it takes even what would be an ABF of maybe 30, 40 people and breaks it down to 15 or 20 people in people's homes. So for individuals that want to be connected and they don't want to get lost in a large church, at Maranatha, what we've invited people to do is to be a part of one of those adult Bible fellowships, be a part of a connect group, a Bible study, and that makes big church kind of shrink a little bit so you can have those connection points.
Yeah.
So
that's good.
Yeah.
So let me transition to this big and very important question. If you had no responsibility in a day, let's say tomorrow you don't have no responsibilities, what will you do?
If it was just me, or is that incorporating my family? Like it just isolated me by myself?
You by yourself. You by yourself.
So tomorrow, if I had zero responsibilities, didn't have to worry about doing any home projects, didn't have to worry about the kids, the wife, I would probably start my morning off by going to the golf course, playing 18 holes of golf.
Really?
Yes.
You're that
if it's nice. Well, I love the golf, but I haven't had a chance to golf because of scheduling. So
wow.
I would go, that's immediately what I would do, is I would be scheduling a tee time.
You would really spend your day golfing?
Well, not the whole day.
Okay.
But I would spend, first few hours of the morning, have a tee time, maybe 7 o'clock tee time.
What will be your score at the end of it?
Depends on which course I'm going to, Eric. But I'm not a scratch golfer. I mean, I
So
don't
what
claim
will be,
to
what,
be.
What is your best course?
Ever?
Yeah.
I wouldn't even be able to tell you that. I don't know. I don't really keep like a log of like where am I at. I don't golf enough.
I tell you, I was really good the first time I went.
I heard about that. I heard
First
about
and
that.
only time.
Yeah, I heard that you were so excited about golfing that when you went to swing and hit it, you actually fell over.
We don't talk about that.
Because you swung so hard.
We don't talk about Bruno, and we don't talk about
yes,
that.
I understand. Maranatha Kids Summer Edition is still on the mind.
Yeah, it's still on the mind.
But that's how my day would start. I would start off by going to the golf course, get in 18 holes of golf. It's a nice day. If it was a nice day, which it would be, and because it's the ideal scenario. If it was just me, do that. After that, go somewhere for lunch that maybe whatever I'm hungry for that day. Go to lunch. After that, I don't know. I might want to catch a movie, something, But it's tough because everything initially I would be thinking about would involve my family, right? That's the first thing I would think about is involve the family. But But that's how I would start it. How about you? What would be your ideal to start the day off?
Oh, it would probably be I will get up, get some really good coffee, get a really good nice breakfast. I love breakfast, my favorite meal. And then from there, I will probably take a time to just watch some shows.
What shows?
I just rewatched Reacher.
Oh, okay.
So I really like those kind of shows.
Yeah.
Where it's action packed.
Yeah.
So I will watch something like that. Then I will go to. If I could have it my way, I would want to play softball. I would love to play softball.
Well, you were almost a professional baseball player,
No, I
so
was
that makes
not.
sense because
No.
you were being highly recruited.
No,
when
I
you
was
were
not
in the
highly
DR,
recruited, but I would like to play softball.
Yeah.
And then I would like to eat some really good steak.
Oh yeah.
Medium
Steak's
term.
good.
You know?
like medium?
Medium.
That's how I
like
get my
big.
steak.
Yeah. See. You
Yep.
know, if you go beyond like medium well, I feel like you need
Can't
to
do
confess.
medium well.
Yeah.
I can't even do medium well.
No,
anymore.
you can. But I'm just saying, like, I will give you the benefit of the doubt if you go to medium well. Like, if you go to medium well, not you. Like, if a person eats their steaks and they take, okay, I'm gonna eat it at medium well. Okay, I'll give you that grace. But beyond there,
Yeah,
I feel like you have to
too
come to
much.
church and go to the altar.
Medium well is too much.
Yeah, that's too far.
But you're right on. I mean, your day sounds better than my day because
Yeah.
I think your day is perfect.
Yeah.
I like everything about your day.
Maybe we'll time it out and we'll do it together.
Yes, that'd be good. That'd be good.
So let me ask you this question now that you're so encouraging.
Can we pause for a second? Because I just want to tell you the shoes today. Wow.
Yeah.
New shoes, nice shoes.
Yeah.
Matching the hat, the coordination.
Yeah.
I was expecting
Listen,
that
monkey see, monkey do.
Yeah, I was
so-
expecting the ideal day for you was going to start off with you doing some like wardrobe design because you were a designer, weren't you, for a little while? Didn't you do like wardrobe design or like a stylist of some sort?
I didn't do wardrobe, but
You
I
were a
did.
stylist. You were a
I
stylist.
was a stylist, yeah.
That's what I would have expected to hear. But go ahead. Yeah, I would have expected to hear that initially.
Well, you're no longer encouraging anyone?
I am encouraging. I'm saying
okay.
I'm just encouraging.
So, Bruce, and keeping on with that, what is Maranatha's views on end time?
Wow, end times at Maranatha.
Yeah.
Yeah, we would be
Not when Maranatha's going to end, but like the end times, eschatology.
we would be our doctrinal statement would specify that we are a pre-tribulational rapture church. So we believe in pre-tribulational
What does
rapture.
that mean?
That the church will be called out of this world. That Christ's return in the air will call the church up. And so prior to the tribulation period, the
Tribulation period being those 7 years.
7-year tribulation period.
After when the Antichrist will be here.
The 7-year tribulation period that is described in good detail in the book of Revelation. The church would be raptured out, pre-tribulational rapture of the church. We believe in a 7-year tribulational period or literal 7-year tribulation period. Then we believe following the tribulation period will be the advent of Christ coming back, second return. And a second coming of Christ, and then Christ will set up a millennial kingdom, 1,000-year reign. So, yeah, we would be what would be considered a pre-tribulational rapture, pre-millennial tribulational period, and we believe in a literal 1,000-year reign of Christ that is future to be
Will he
fulfilled.
be here on earth?
Yeah,
Is that
that
what
he will
believe?
come down. He will establish his kingdom here,
And then after the
rule.
1,000-year, what would happen?
Yeah, after the 1,000-year period, you'd have the Battle of Armageddon, and then there'll be new heavens, new earth. The earth will be burned with fire, and there'll be a new heavens, a new earth, and then there's the eternal state.
And we believe here that those that believe in Jesus prior to this event will get to witness all of that?
Yeah, those that believe in Jesus that would be considered part of the church age would be raptured with Christ, but then we will return with him. And
We will return for the 1,000-year, or
yeah,
we will
we'll return.
for
We'll return with him in 1,000-year period. We'll be here with him. We'll continue with Christ for eternity, eternal state, new heavens, new earth. So, yeah.
So then, with that, let me ask you this question: what is your favorite miracle in the Bible?
My favorite miracle in the Bible. That's a
Yeah.
great question. There's so many
There's so many great.
incredible miracles.
You like men running or blind men running?
Yes, Pastor Steve. I should have asked him about that last week. I should have asked him about
But
that.
genuinely, that's my favorite. My favorite is Bartimaeus.
Okay.
That's my favorite.
Why that one? What's the reason?
I just love the story of Bartimaeus and how, he's blinded. He hears about Jesus. Crowd is telling him to be quiet. He's screaming. He knows that the only person that will could have the potential to change his life right there is Jesus. And he does whatever it takes. He doesn't run to Jesus, but he does whatever he needs to see that happen. And just the faith in Bartimaeus, and also the flip side of how Jesus, among the noise, among the crowd, and among the people telling him to move on, don't waste your time, he stops and listens to this guy. So I love that story.
Yeah. I guess I'll give you two. I'll give you one from the Old Testament, one from the New Testament.
Ooh.
Yours is fantastic, by the way. I like that story as well. But the Old Testament, it makes me immediately think of Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, and Daniel, because it's all in the book of Daniel.
Yeah.
But I love Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. If you don't know that story, read the book of Daniel, where Daniel's three friends, they're thrown into a fiery furnace because of their refusal to bow down to an idol.
Yeah.
And the passage says that when they were thrown into the fiery furnace, they looked and they saw not just 3 men, but 4 in the fire. And the 4th was like the Son of God. And so I love that miracle because it literally is telling us that Jesus was in the fire with them.
Yeah.
Like, it literally is telling us he was in the fire with them. And then I love that when they come out of the fire, the way the passage describes that is that they were not touched by the fire.
Yeah.
Not a hair of their head was seared. They didn't even have the smell of smoke on them. Like, the
insane.
passage tells us that. So I love that miracle. You should read that, Daniel. And but it's just God goes above and beyond. Like, they could have, you have a campfire, you smell like fire.
Yeah, he
like
could have
everywhere
stopped
you
there.
go.
Like, no,
Yeah, but they didn't even smell like
Didn't
fire. It was
smell.
almost like, this didn't touch them.
Yeah.
And I love a little bit later on in the book of Daniel where Daniel's thrown into the lion's den because
He's just hanging out.
And he says the next morning King Nebuchadnezzar comes to the lion's den. He's like, Daniel, like, has the God that you serve protected you? And Daniel's like, yeah, King, I'm good. My God has shut the mouths of the lions, and he's just chilling with lions all night. And then we read a little bit later on that those that accused Daniel were thrown into that den of lions, and the lions devoured them. And it's just, man, God did this. And the way Daniel describes it is the Lord shut the mouths of the lions.
Yeah.
And so, again, book of Daniel, great miracles.
Yeah.
New Testament, one of my favorite New Testament miracles, one I just preached on recently, was when Peter walks on the water to go to Jesus. And I love that passage because, first of all, it's a miracle enough that Jesus is walking on the water.
Yeah.
He's the Son of God.
Yeah.
But then that Peter would say to Jesus, Lord, if it's you, tell me to come to you on the water. And Peter gets out of the boat and begins walking on water. This is just a mere man, right? But through the empowerment of the Lord, he's able to do the miraculous as well, walk on water. And it's just a great reminder. There's so much in that text when Peter shifted his focus off of Christ, he began to sink. But I love that miracle.
And I like that miracle because it's like one that people give Peter such a hard time. But truth be told, Peter was the only other person that ever walked on water.
Peter walked on water.
He had enough faith to get out of the boat. So
Yep. I agree.
Anyways, maybe we should be easier on Peter sometimes.
I agree.
The reason why I asked you that question is because one of the ones that were submitted is, why don't we see many overt, I don't know what that means, but many overt miracles in modern day in America?
Yeah, I think the reason we don't necessarily see as many miracles in America, could go back to what was the original intent of miracles.
Yeah.
The apostles were empowered by Christ. They were empowered by the Holy Spirit following the day of Pentecost with certain sign gifts that were to be used for the purpose of authenticating the message that they were delivering.
Correct.
So in the establishing of the church, when the Spirit gave gifts and when they were empowered and the apostles were empowered, those that saw the resurrected Christ and sent out, they had certain gifts that were given to them to be used as a sign to authenticate the message of the gospel. One of those gifts was sign gifts in the sense of they were able to do miracles. And so, there are certain gifts whose function and purpose seems to have ceased based upon the reasoning behind them to begin with. So, for example, the gift of tongues was used as an authentication to the unbelieving Jew, where people would be able to speak in a dialect, a known language, and presentation of the gospel as confirmation. Miracles that were performed, signs that were performed, was to show forth, wow, God is with this individual. The message that they're preaching about Christ has reality to it, and look at how God has empowered them. So I don't know that we see as many signs or miracles, not just in America, but around the world today, because I don't know that some of those gifts truly are in existence today in the way that they were used in Bible times. Now, that being said, God is able to do the miraculous, heal, do whatever he wants to. And it's not necessarily that we don't see God doing that, but I think a lot of times in America in particular, we can tend to not give credit to God for those things that do take place. And an example would be, we know a number of people from our church that have had cancer and they've been told they have a very limited time to live, or have had heart problems or heart issues, or had different physical issues that the doctors have told them, you have a very limited time left, weeks, maybe months, and years later, they're still thriving for the Lord, right? And to me, that is a miracle of the Lord, that the Lord would heal, that he would provide for them in a way that medical doctors and the medical community would say, there's no way this should be able to happen. It can't be explained. So I don't think it's necessarily that miracles aren't happening. They are. I think sometimes we're, not giving God the credit that is
Yeah.
due. But I do think, unlike in biblical times where there were specific individuals who would be gifted with the gifts to perform miracles, I don't know that that necessarily is in existence today, at least that I've seen.
Yeah.
And, you know, overseas, it sounds like there's a lot more stories being shared of miraculous things. And I believe part of it is because they have no other explanation than to say, this is the Lord that has done this. Here in America, we can attribute it to the medical community. We can attribute it to medicine. We can attribute it to lifestyle. We can all kinds of things. And sometimes we can rob God of that glory. So,
and I think too, like if you were to go by the definition of miracle, so you have the Oxford Dictionary. This is how I define it. This is secular, by the way. A surprising and welcoming event that is not explicable by natural or scientific laws and is therefore considered to be the work of a divine agency. Yeah. So that's how they will define it. So in light of that too, like I also like to reference to like when you're asking yourself, it's the Lord, it's miracles still happen today. One miracle that is continued to happen all over the world is the fact that God, through his son Jesus, is bringing people from death to life. Yeah. You know, I think that if we go by that definition, that is a great example of a miracle. You know, you and I, sinners, left to ourselves, you know, that are condemned because of our nature. And then this gospel message that God sent his son Jesus to die on the cross and rose from the dead. By us believing in that, we are being raised from death to life. Yeah. That's a miracle. No, that's a miracle right there. And so to see when churches, Maranatha, other churches in our area, other churches in the world, to see people getting saved, you know, that's a miracle. So I wouldn't necessarily say that miracles are not happening. They are happening. You may not see them to the scope of, you know, someone opening the you know, Lake Erie in half, you know, but lives are changing, and every life change is a work of God. Yeah, that's an excellent point. I mean, I think that's a fantastic perspective to put, that the greatest miracle is someone who's spiritually dead being made alive. Yeah. Like that's an impossibility apart from Christ. It can't happen. Correct. There's no explanation for that other than God has made us alive, right? And so you are on it today. Yeah, guys, this is a rare form of Bruce. He's not going to be like this next week, so enjoy while it lasts. So as a kid, what did you want to do when you grew up as a kid? I wanted to be a professional baseball player when I was a kid for a little while. Yes, you did. For a little while. So you've been giving me a hard time about me. Yeah. And this whole time you wanted to be a professional. There's a difference. Listen. I'm going to encourage you. What team did you want it to be part? What team did you want it to sign? The Cleveland Indians is who I wanted to be in the Cleveland Indians. Yeah. When I was a kid, when I was a young kid. Of all the teams, hold on. I don't want to be so quick to dismiss this. Yeah. Of all the major league teams in the MLB, you wanted to be drafted or pegged or play for the Cleveland Indians? Yes. When I was a kid, I was a huge Cleveland Indians fan. Wow. And this is when Joe Carter played for the Indians, Corey Snyder, all these guys that played for the Indians. And so I was a huge Cleveland Indians fan. Now, let me just back up for a second, because this is when you say, what do you want to be when you grow up? That's when I was like a little kid, right? But let me just back up for a second, because there's a huge difference between me saying... How old were you? 5, 6 years old, 7 years old. Oh, there's a difference between me saying I want to be a professional baseball player and me saying, hey, I've been highly recruited by the Cleveland Indians. Okay, that's a huge difference. You were highly recruited. No, that's what I'm saying. I'm saying you were being recruited. I was not recruited by no major league team. Yeah, well, you were being recruited by. I was being looked at. There you go. I wasn't being D3 or D2 college. I don't remember. I was 5, 6, 7 years old when I wanted to be a Major League Baseball player. You were like 21, I was just looked at because I was Dominican. That was it. That was the only criteria. All I'm saying is there's a huge difference. I wanted to be when I was 5, 6, 7 years old because I wanted to be. Well, to your surprise, I wanted to be a Major League player. That was my first dream. But then I wanted to be in the military. Yeah. And I think that, and actually, I am of the opinion that had I been born in the U.S., I would probably have joined the military. Okay. That would have been my career. I thought about going into the Marine police Corps. Officer. I thought about going in the Marine Corps. My dad's a police officer, so I thought about Marine Corps, law enforcement. I thought about all that. I used to think that I could make it in the Navy SEAL. Maybe, Eric, maybe you could. You're a strong guy. I think I would have been strong guy. I think I would have been more of a SEAL than a Navy. You are physically strong. You're mentally strong. You are someone that you probably could have accomplished that. Yeah. I think you could accomplish anything you wanted to accomplish. Wow, you're so encouraging. I'm going to call you Barnabas. Yeah. Yeah. The son of encouragement. Yeah. Thank you. So let me ask you one more question. Yes, please. And I love this question because we were just talking about the gospel, but I think this will be a good segue out. When Jesus said, "Let this cup pass from me," what was he referring to?
So you're speaking of when Jesus was in the garden. It was the night
praying.
of his betrayal.
You had Peter, John, and Peter and John. They were sleeping.
Yeah. Jesus is there, and he's praying to the Father. It's the night of his betrayal.
And James, right?
Judas is about to come with a mob of people to arrest him, and he would soon stand trial, which really wasn't trial. It was ridiculous. But Jesus is in the garden. Luke's gospel account tells us that while he was in the garden, he was praying. He was sweating drops of blood, which is a known medical condition.
Yeah.
That when you're under great duress and there's heaviness.
That's a picture right there.
That you can sweat drops of blood because of the amount of duress and strain that you're under. And so Jesus is recorded in the gospel accounts as saying, Father, if it's your will, let this cup pass from me. And so the cup that Jesus is speaking of, I believe that this is very widely agreed upon by most commentators, pastors, theologians, is Jesus is speaking of the cup of the wrath of God that is going to be poured out on him because of the sin of man, right? Yeah. And so Jesus is in the garden. He knows what's coming. He has predicted his death, his burial, his resurrection. The prophet Isaiah chapter 53, spoke about the great punishment and weight that Jesus would carry. Isaiah 53 actually says it pleased the Lord to crush him, speaking of Jesus. And so Jesus knows what's coming and the wrath of God that's coming. So he's praying, and Jesus being fully God, fully man, I believe in his humanity, as he's sweating great drops of blood under great duress, is praying and asking the Father, if it's your will that his wrath would not have to come upon him. But the key, I think, part of that whole prayer is that Jesus' conclusion after saying that is, Father, if it's your will, let this cup pass from me, but not my will, but your will be done. And so, so the cup that Jesus is referencing is the wrath of God that is going to be poured out. And that's what happened, and ultimately what Christ would endure. And Jesus made statements that would very clearly back this up. When Jesus said, I came to seek and to save that which was lost. I came not to be served, but to serve and to give my life as a ransom for many. And when Jesus was on the cross, he would ask, my God, why have you forsaken me, right? He was experiencing the full outpouring of the wrath of God so that we, as followers of Christ, would have forgiveness, reconciliation with God, and we would not have to endure the wrath of God. Yeah. And so, that's what he was referencing. Yeah. And in spite of knowing that's what was coming, he still desired to fulfill the will of the Father.
I think that phrase right there is one of the toughest, or not just toughest, but I guess mind-blowing things that Jesus said throughout his ministry. Yeah. Because one part of it, you get to see fully in display his humanity, right? Yeah. We talk about how he was 100% man, 100% God. You get to see his humanity to the extreme there, but also you get to see his submission to the Father. But think about what Jesus was saying there. Like he really understands the heaviness and the difficulties and how much of a pain and a wrath he's gonna be experienced from God because of sin. Yeah. And so to think that Jesus willingly and happily, in a sense, took that upon himself so that you and I didn't have to take that, that's mind-blowing. Yeah. And for us, like, that's a phrase that we shouldn't just be reading on Easter Sunday or on Good Friday, That's something that we need to be reminded. This is the picture. This is what it costs for us to have the gospel today. Like, it was not an easy thing. It's like the gospel is not just something simple that we get to sing on Sunday here on church. Like it came at a great cost. Yep. And Jesus demonstrates that by even simply saying, God, if you could let this pass, if this cup pass from me, let it be so, but let your will be so, I think to me, it's crazy.
Yeah. I mean, Jesus said, no one takes my life from me. I lay it down, right? So there was a willingness on the part of Christ to lay down his life so that we could have forgiveness.
Well, he said it too. No greater friend exists than one who lays his life for his friend.
Yep. So it's quite a picture. But again, that's the good news, right? Gospel means good news.
Correct.
So the gospel of Jesus Christ, or the good news concerning Jesus Christ, is that, 1 Corinthians 15, Paul said that Jesus Christ would come, live a perfect sinless life. He would die on the cross, be buried, rise again the third day, be seen by witnesses, that there's forgiveness in life through what Jesus has done. Yeah. And that's the message we preach, right? That's the message as believer all of us should be sharing. So.
And that should be what would encourage us, what should drive us to live a life that brings honor and glory beyond the pew, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
We come on Sunday, we celebrate, but every other day, Monday through Friday or Monday through Saturday, we should be just as passionate and as committed to the Lord as we were the day before when we were sinned in the goodness of God, right?
Yep. Excellent. Excellent points.
Yeah.
Eric, people might have questions. What's the phone number? If
The
they
phone
have
number,
questions,
without
text
looking at
us.
the page,
If they have questions to text in.
without looking at the page, but also looking at the page, will be 330-331-6453.
Yes.
Backwards will be 3546-133.
Yes.
033.
Yep. Excellent. You read that.
Excellent.
On point.
You want it in Spanish?
All podcasts, you've been on point. Like, you've been on it today.
Yeah.
And I think it's because
Go ahead.
God has used you in so many ways over the last several weeks.
Yeah, go ahead.
Missions, camp, kids ministry, preaching Sunday. I mean, you've been
Well, he hasn't used me that yet.
as a father, as a husband.
Wow.
You've been at it, and so we appreciate.
So when let me ask you this question:
we appreciate you taking the time to
when
be
we
on
get
Beyond
done
the
with this
Pew.
podcast, are you gonna go to the restroom and you're gonna wash your mouth because this is so out of character? Like,
what are you talking about?
This is so out of character. I have known you for 5 years.
Listen,
4.5.
I am just thankful today,
and I've never seen this form of Bruce.
I am just thankful today that you are with us Beyond the Pew, sharing your heart, and it's been good. And I think people appreciate it. As a matter of fact,
what is the question you want to ask?
As a matter of fact, if people are watching this, I would love for them to comment underneath the video. Thank you, Eric, for being
Thank you, Eric.
Yes, thank you, Eric. That would be fantastic to see that. Listen, the question we want to ask, we ask every single podcast is,
except last week because Steve didn't know.
Steve didn't know because he never watches it. What is your life like beyond the pew?
Yeah.
And we hope it's honoring to the Lord. So we'll see you next week.
Thank you for tuning in, guys.
Thanks.